Okay, so in this video, I'm going to react to Carl Benjamin, also known as Sargon of AKKAD. It's a video he did recently about something Stewart Lee's been saying in the press or on TV or whatever.
So, if you're not British, you're probably not familiar with a comedian called Stewart Lee. But in the 90s and 2000s, he was a surprisingly popular, cynical Gen Xer like myself. Now, one thing.
Yeah, like he was kind of maybe popular in the 90s, but I don't think that's when he was at his best. And maybe the early 2000s. I think it's his later stuff. That's where he's kind of really become, I think, a great comedian.
About Stewart Lee is he definitely embodies the Generation X, and he's a bit of an older Generation X. The sort of Daria mentality. Oh, everything around is terrible, everyone's bad, everything's rubbish, nothing was ever good, and all we can do is make sardonic jokes about it. And we're.
But like, it depends if you're talking about Stewart Lee, the man, I don't know, the Guardian writer or whatever, or if you're talking about his stand-up persona, because his stand-up persona is taking that sort of stereotype to an absurd level, even though he might be the sort of smug left-winger who's condescending in real life. When he does his stage, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, he takes that to a absurdity, and in a way is taking the piss out of himself and that whole attitude.
I found this post from 2018 when I was just looking around, to remind myself about Stewart Lee. And what's really funny is this this opening paragraph. Quote, Stewart Lee is a fat British comedian known for his unfunny routines and holding audiences in contempt. As a smug pseudo-intellectual leftist, I naturally hold Stewart Lee in sycophantic high regard, to such extent that I actually write a little bit like he does when I'm writing about him, no less.
That's because, in my opinion, that's what Stewart Lee's taken the piss out of. He's taken the piss out of the arrogance of pseudo-intellectuals, and these kind of uni boys or whatever, or later public intellectuals who think that they're above everybody, who are condescending and are smug. That's like his onstage persona. Like he's taken the piss out of that.
Particularly. Now, what's really funny about this is that many a truth is said in jest. That's meant to be a joke, but it's not wrong. In his credit, he is funny, actually.
He is
but
funny.
the point is that he's got this kind of insufferable attitude in which
And that's the whole point. He's supposed to be insufferable on stage. Like, I can separate the man and his act from his recent sort of being a pundit. His pundit stuff I don't agree with, but his on-stage stuff it's like his stand-up, it's his comedy, it's his bits, it's a character, you know?
he literalizes the essence of what is being said to him. And this is the crux of his most famous joke. These days...
This isn't his most famous joke. His famous joke's got to do with, I think, apple cider.
If you say you're English, they lock you up. So this is the part where he's talking. This from 2009, and this is where he is recounting a conversation he had with a taxi driver. What the taxi driver?
No, like I mean, I don't want to be rude, okay? Okay, like Carl Benjamin's friends with some comedians, like who's that Scottish one? Dankula. He could talk to Dankula about this. Like a bit on stage isn't like recounting a real event. I mean, even if it is recounting a real event, it's going to have been honed and completely changed into a comedy bit. There might never have been any taxi driver. There probably wasn't. And even if there was, his conversation wouldn't have gone like this at all. The whole idea of like the British patriotic, whatever, taxi driver who has an opinion on immigration or the law, that's like a stereotype, right? And that's perfect to put into a comedy dialogue for like a stand-up show, you know? Like, it's a comedy show.
What he's trying to say is that the country is not being run for the English people, it is being run for foreigners. And so he says this. Right, so it goes on like that for a bit, right?
It'll go on like that for a bit because that's like Stewart Lee's thing, man. He'll take a little interaction, real or not, like this, and just go on for like 5 minutes until the audience is sick of it, and then they start finding it funny because he's going on about it. I can't remember this particular joke. I've watched all of Stewart Lee's stuff, but I'm guessing it goes something like, "What? You mean we get locked up if we say we're English?" And then the other guy goes, "Yeah, if you say you're English, you get locked up." And it just goes on and on and on, repeating in slightly different ways for a ridiculously long time. That's like one of his unique jokes, you know? And that's not how the conversation would have obviously gone on, because it probably never happened. There probably never was a conversation.
Now, you can see why the sort of smug middle-class left-winger would find him perfect. He's got...
Because that's the persona that Stewart Lee's playing up to on stage. He's taken the piss out of smug upper middle class people as much, or pseudo intellectuals, as much as anything else. Like, that's his. I might be wrong. Okay, I'm not an expert in Stewart Lee. I've just watched a lot of his shit, and that's the joke that I'm seeing with his stuff.
The correct and extremely well-calibrated level of utter condescension towards an English working-class taxi driver. Now, the taxi driver...
A fictional English working-class taxi driver who is a character in a comedy bit on stage that probably goes on for 5 minutes where they just keep saying the same thing to each other. Like, it's not... I understand, like, okay, like this is... I've watched this video through, right? Later, Stewart Lee, the pundit, the Guardian writer, or whatever, political voice piece or whatever, yeah, he's saying some stuff that's kind of disagrees with Sargon's opinions, right? Focus on that. Maybe you could use this taxi bit as like a launch pad, but to actually be attacking the bit itself when it's supposed to be like a little bit of a this sort of aloof character, and it's a comedy show. It's not really relevant to be attacking that. Just attack what he said recently, like, because that's him speaking. Okay, it's not his online, his stage persona, his bit, his comedy routine. You know, it's like it used to be like the left were going after all the comedians, right? And it got really bad. And now it seems like this is what the right's doing. Like, Sargon's literally trying to seriously critique a stand-up bit in a sort of political class way when it's a fucking stand-up, man. Like, leave comedians alone. Like, the left should left comedians alone. The right should leave comedians alone. Just let people do what they want on stage, man. Can, like, separate the art from the, I don't know, the person. Or the politics, even. Just like, if it's funny, it's funny. That's kind of what works on stage as far as I know. I'm not a comedian myself. I follow comedy.
Hasn't got Stewart's education. He doesn't have his background. He didn't have all the advantages that Stewart had in life. But he is trying to speak to a sense that the country is getting away from him. And even in 2009, this was something people could feel. Because we had
Okay, so like this fictional taxi driver, probably fictional taxi driver, is speaking to a sense that England's got away from him. This is kind of crazy, man. Like, we're talking about a character in a comedy monologue.
all the hate speech laws back then. We had everything coming in, and we'd had about 12 years.
Like, I'm not saying that the political points that Sargon's making are wrong. Not at all. I'm just saying, like, why are we still talking about a comedy bit? You know, and this depressed taxi driver who's just part of a bit, but Sargon seems to think is being mocked by Stewart Lee, while Stewart Lee's on stage playing a character of a pseudo intellectual snob, right? Who was supposedly recounting a conversation with a stereotypical British taxi driver. It's fiction, man.
Of mass immigration by this point. So it was starting to become noticeable. And the smug, pseudo-intellectual middle-class prat decides, yeah, no, I'm okay with this because it doesn't affect me. It's not in my 500,000 home cul-de-sac, you know, upper middle-class life. It's with you, the plebeian working class, who I feel are stupid and mischaracterizing the situation, and so I can just take you literally rather than seriously. And I can just scorn and sneer and laugh at the problems you have because they're not the problems I have. Because the thing about the English middle class is that they use this contempt for the English working class to differentiate themselves from them. They themselves might not be working class, but their grandparents would have been. And their grandparents and parents would have worked hard and given them a nice middle class standard of living. They got into university, probably the first generation in their family to go to.
I mean, this might be true, I guess, for, you know, the 80s and 90s generation, but I think it's almost the opposite now. I think a lot of people's parents might have gone to uni and have had good careers, and now it's more like the younger people. I mean, he's not talking, obviously, Stewart Lee's not a younger person, but I think it's more like, what do you call it, like downward, you know, like people with educated parents might not be educated themselves now. But when he's talking about, if he's talking still about Stewart Lee here, not the persona that Stewart Lee's putting on stage, actually, I think, I'm not sure, but I think Stewart Lee might have grown up pretty working class. I might be wrong, I'd have to check on Wikipedia, but I sort of think he is one of those people that literally grew up working class as fuck and then ended up going to university, which is maybe where his like 90s persona was a kind of on stage. It was like a foppy, arrogant student, basically, because that's what he was seeing, and maybe was becoming himself too, but sort of was taking a piss out of that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
University, and now they can sneer down at the working class who are still trapped in the poverty that their ancestors were, and say, well, it's because you weren't good enough. I somehow am better than you, and I separate myself. I ontologically create myself to be
which is the persona that he plays up to in a lot of his stage stuff, that condescending arrogance. It's like that's his stage thing, man. If you're talking about him himself and what he's writing, cool. But we're still talking about his comedy bits, you know.
higher level than you through this condescension. That's what Stewart Lee is doing here. It's actually completely understandable for the guy.
So that's right. It's what Stewart Lee's doing here. He's talking about the comedy bit from whenever it was, fucking 15 years ago. He's saying that this comedy bit is Stewart Lee being condescending to some sort of real life interaction with a stereotypical British cab driver in a comedy monologue which is there to entertain and be funny.
To be like, yeah, no, actually, I see what you're saying, even though, of course, literally you don't get locked up for saying your English. But it is a way of recognizing that the institutions are against you. And actually,
Yeah, I mean, imagine if in this fictional monologues, I think the whole thing's fictional. Imagine if he did go that way. I mean, Stewart Lee's a pretty good comedian. He could probably write it to be funny, but maybe it wouldn't be as funny as the sort of smug guy mocking what a taxi driver said and making the whole interaction funny by just repeating the same thing for 5 minutes. Like, I don't think it would. Stewart Lee could make it funny, but generally, I don't think it would be as funny if it went into like, oh well, obviously, you're not saying we do get arrested for saying no English, but I do recognize your idea that it's becoming we're becoming oppressors to express our Englishness or something. Like, this is not. Why are we still talking about a fucking bit, a comedy bit?
say if some Rwandan second-generation immigrant decides to stab a bunch of children and then you go out and protest about it and then you just get locked up for really trivial reasons, yeah, that is essentially because you're English. And
Well, like, this might be a point, but in the context of responding to a comedy bit from 2009, it just seems like a really silly video that I'm watching. I'm not saying like what Carl's saying about politics is silly. I'm saying in the context of replying to a comedy bit, it just sort of makes it a little bit ridiculous. Which is why I think he's made a mistake here. Just show the comedy bit. Go to what he's actually saying as a pundit and we'll just reply straight to that.
what happened with the counter-protest? There was a large counter-protest with lots of men on the streets who were all foreign. Did they get locked up? No, they didn't. Even though there was violence, even though there was smashing of things. Like, remember when they were punching that guy? He was just walking past the pub. He didn't know what was going on. He wasn't part of a protest. But they saw an English guy, they kicked him and punched him into a pub. And, like, they stormed through the pub and smashed some stuff. Like, did they go to jail? Was any of them even arrested? The kid...
And like all of this is complete valid points, you know? Like, it's completely valid what he's saying, but just in the context of the replying to a comedy bit, it's absurd, man.
Starmer made sure that, by God, those people who are concerned about the murder of 3 girls, they're going to jail. 100% they're going to jail. They weren't attacking random strangers on the street. Don't get me wrong, they fought with the cops. Don't agree. But they weren't attacking random strangers on the street. Unlike the ethnic mobs that were attacking random strangers on the street who just happened to be white. And that's why they were attacking them, Stuart. But yeah, no, you don't go to jail just because you say you're English, Stuart. Absolute prick. I hate this kind. Stewart Lee is probably the reason I loathe the middle class in Britain. Actually, I just want to say.
But like, what's happening here? It's the same as when the left would go after comedy bits. It's a comedy bit, and it made them look stupid, and it made them look fanatical, and that's what's kind of coming across to me now. Like, we've got Sargon, who's sort of a right-wing commentator, going after a supposedly leftist comedy bit, and it looks just as bad.
He's probably the reason. The fact that they can just pour scorn on the working class, who are just their countrymen. You know, there's like genetically going to be no difference or distance between them. They are part of the same tribe, and yet they have managed to create a level above them. Oh, we're so much better than you. Why? Because we accept the things that are going on, because we're progressive, we're woke, we're liberal. We're so much better than you. Don't you understand? We are your moral superiors. And just because you have to live on the ground level, cheek by jowl, with all of the things we've inflicted on you that we don't have to deal with, you're not really allowed to complain, because if you do, I'm going to make a fool of you in front of millions of people. So know your place. That's what the middle class is about. And that's why Stewart Lee, the Gen X middle class, the Daria...
And like, Stewart Lee is taking a piss out of the middle class. That's his fucking thing, isn't it? Am I missing something? Am I reading too much into Stewart Lee's comedy?
Like, absolute weasels who themselves can't be sincere about anything, can't stand up for anything, and all they can do is cut down others. And this is why I so deeply despise Stewart Lee in particular. And so you've got, obviously, leftist shitlibs who are just like, like last year, like they're like, oh my God, Stewart Lee's greatest joke feels more relevant than ever.
But like, what's this like Stewart Lee's greatest joke thing, man? Like, I've watched all of Stewart Lee's stuff that I can many times, you know. Like, I could be described as a fan, and I never thought this joke was his best or his greatest joke, or ever even heard of it as being his greatest joke. So maybe I've been living under a rock, man.
It's not. It's a form of ethnic self-flagellation against the English working class to keep them in their place, even though they've been suffering for decades now, which is what this joke was all about.
I think it's a bit of a reach. I think this joke is more just about language and just repeating something again and again to the level of absurdity. The joke, for me at least, is just that he keeps repeating stuff and going round and round and testing the audience's patience. That's sort of the actual joke.
For some reason, Stewart, as clever as, for some reason, everyone thinks he's really clever as well. I mean,
He
he's
is pretty
smart
clever,
enough,
man.
but like, he's not some genius. He's a stand-up comedian. But
He's pretty
for some
genius
reason, he
as a
doesn't see
stand-up
it. If he's
comedian.
so damn clever, why wouldn't he see the underlying issue that the working class taxi driver is trying to communicate to him?
Because it's a joke. The point of a joke isn't to see the underlying message of a English taxi driver who probably never exists. It's like a bit. I don't know. Am I making any sense? I don't know. Fuck. One of us is crazy. Sargon's crazy, or I'm crazy, or Stewart Lee's crazy, or we're all crazy. We're all crazy, and you're crazy if you're still watching this. After what is it? Fucking 20 minutes. Yeah, we're all crazy, basically.
Feel like I'm losing my country, is what he's saying. And Stewart Lee's response to that is to publicly mock him, even though I think...
He's not publicly mocking anyone. It's a fictional bit. Even if there was an actual interaction, it wouldn't have gone like this. It's a joke. I don't know. Ask Dankula. He's a comedian. He's a friend of yours. Ask him to explain. It's a fucking joke. Do you think everything that Dankula said on stage was literal? It's like we're talking here about Stewart Lee being literal about stuff when perhaps it's Sargon taking a joke literally.
We can agree at this point, he is definitely losing his country. Things have gone so... I mean, maybe in 2009, it was acceptable to mock this, but I don't think it's acceptable now, is it? Anyway, the reason that I bring all of this up, the reason this is relevant, is because for some reason he's gone on Channel 4 recently.
You know, if he did this bit now, it would almost be more funny because it would upset people a little bit in the audience and make him uncomfortable, and that's kind of his thing. Again, I might be reading too much into his comedy, but Stewart Lee likes to make the audience uncomfortable, and this joke would make the audience more uncomfortable, which would actually kind of be better for his act, you know.
He's been like, oh, I would work at the States. I think I'd be locked up just for saying I'm a comedian.
Now this is where there's a whole other part of the video. Now, this is fair enough because now we're talking about something Stewart Lee, the pundit, has said, which I also agree is ridiculous and like blind and kind of makes him look stupid. This is all, I think everything after this is pretty relevant.
This is really funny. The irony, Stuart. Oh my goodness. And look at the sincere expression. I think fascism's coming, boys. Oh, shut up. Don't get sincere about bullshit now. Let's watch this.
I don't see a way out of where we're going, you know, and so you...
So when you talked about fascism in your last column,
yeah,
you
let's call it what it is. Absolutely. I mean,
you think that's where we're heading?
People are pussyfooting around this idea. People are being deported wrongly from the States to an El Salvador jail.
Ah, yeah, that's fascism, is it? That's fascism.
See, and this is where I'm on board with Sargon of AKKAD, Carl Benjamin. Like, he's reacting now to something that Stewart Lee, the pretty much like elite showbiz, whatever, celeb, who's somehow become a pundit, is saying, and what Stewart Lee's saying is, in my opinion, ridiculous. And Carl's, well, I'm not going to say within his rights. Like when he's responding to this, it's like makes sense. It's like sane. Responding to a comedy bit is not sane.
It's not the merger of the state and every institution in the state under a dictatorship that says nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. Right? That's not fascism. It's when an illegal immigrant gets wrongly deported.
So like, I don't want to like be cherry picking here, but like I think I've already wasted too much time with this video. If I'm just responding now to Carl responding to actually what Stewart Lee the man has said, it's not really gonna help my point in the video. And my point is that you don't respond to comedy bits, you know. Let's just see if there's anything more. I think there's more later about the comedy.
The Islander magazines. Like, it's actually not very difficult to do, but anyway.
But
Don't know why they think he's clever.
I wouldn't work in the States at the moment. I'd worry about them going through my jokes and ending up spending 2 days.
Yeah, this is
locked up
ironic
without my
because this
heart
is what
medication,
was happening in the
Yeah,
UK.
because you say you're a comedian in America at the moment, they just lock you up, don't they, Stuart? Comedian, when did that come in? Yeah, they abolished the First Amendment, didn't they, Stuart? That was what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Like in America, there's a First Amendment, so you can't get arrested, I don't think, for making a joke on stage, which is a good thing.
Literally not true. And I'm just going to mock you for saying something that's literally not true, even though I know what you mean is I'm worried about my civil liberties. I'm worried about authoritarianism. I'm worried about the decline of the liberal order. And you know what, Stuart? Don't care. Just like you didn't care that English cabbie was like, I'm worried that I'm losing England. The thing that
No, but the English cabbie isn't real, man. Like, I'm hitting my head here, man. The English cabbie is a bit. It's a story told on stage for comedic value, for a joke, a bit.
made me feel secure, that made me feel safe, or the civil liberties that make you feel safe. I don't care that you're losing them, Stuart. I don't care. Now what? Now what? You look panicked, mate. You look genuinely afraid of something that is a boogeyman in your head. And now you can see how it feels, right? Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, right? There is a real danger in Britain that British people go to jail because of things they say.
This is true.
It's a real thing. Thousands of people a year. There's about like 30 people a day get
True.
arrested for speech crimes in Britain. It's absolutely unbelievable. That's not the case in America, Stuart. But you take this fear that we have to labour under, you project it on them because you don't like the vibe that Donald Trump gives. Because that's really what this is about, isn't it?
No, this is all good, man. Like, I'm trying to say, like, I'm not here to criticize what he's saying. Yeah, I'm here to criticize the idea of going after a comedian's bit.
Vibe of Donald Trump. And you were completely unsympathetic to the cabbie when he was trying to express his view of the vibe of how England is turning against us.
Unsympathetic to the fictional cabbie.
So I'm totally unsympathetic, mate. And you know who you've got to blame for me being completely unsympathetic about that? That's right. You.
So yeah, that's my reaction to Sargon of AKKAD. I actually like Carl Benjamin. I've been watching him for fucking years. I don't agree with everything he says, and but I do particularly like his voice and his way of speaking. And hopefully he doesn't copyright strike me for this, because I mean, this video is only going to get, I don't know, fucking 10 views.